Percents and proportions. So in this lesson, we're going to look at a different way of solving and understanding percents is how they relate to proportions. And we just studied a lot about proportions, so it should come pretty easy, the setup and the methods of solution. So let's take a look. Starting out, it gives us this little explanation. What we're really trying to do here is figure out what 14 over 35 is equivalent to, what percentage this equals. There we go. What percentage does 14 out of 35 equal? So on the right side here, this is our number value. We've broken it 0 up to 35, this rectangular column, into 5 sections, meaning that each section is going to count for 7, because 35 divided by 5 is 7. So that's 0 to 7 to 14 to 21, 28, 35. We want to then figure out what 14 out of 35 is. So we're going to highlight that this goes up to 14. Now we want to figure out what that's equivalent to, what percentage. So if we break our left side into similar 5 segments, we notice that we're going to be counting by 20s. And when we see what they're equating to, 14 over 35, this fraction, as it is right here, is the same as 40%. So by using this percent bar model, we can figure out and we can see that 14 over 35 is the same as 40%. Basing that fact, we're going to go ahead and solve percent problems using a proportion, creating it and figuring out what it's equal to out of 100. So what I mean by that is, it says here you can represent A as P percent of B using this proportion. A over B equals P over 100. A is your part, B is your base, and P percent is what it's going to be equal to, the ratio, the other half of our proportion. And we remember that P percent using the symbol is the same as P over 100. So they're equal, they're the same thing. All right, so let's try creating one. What percent of 7 is 4? So we don't know what percent, that's what we're trying to find, so it's going to be P over 100. That's going to be to start with. Now we have to figure out if the 7 is going to go in the denominator or the numerator, and where the 4 is going to go. So if we think about it, 7 is the base and 4 is going to be our part. So that means that our proportion is going to look like 4 over 7 equals P over 100. And now we're ready to solve. This is excellent if you're a little bit stuck on what gets put where, what is the part, why is that the base, how did I know that was the part, and which part goes where. It's almost like a tongue twister. Here are 2 little hints to help you solve these and set up a proportion. First, find the percent and put it over 100. Okay, so here they didn't give us a percent, so we just use P because we don't know it. Put it over 100, you're ready to go. The second thing you're going to look for is the word of. Now I know that if we're solving something, of can mean multiply, but if you're making a proportion, whatever comes after of is going to go in the denominator. And that's going to work, and we'll kind of prove it to be true as we go through. Here we find of, whatever comes after of, immediately after, is going to go in the denominator. So of 7, because that's usually what that's saying is of the total. And then that's going to help you figure out where things go. Okay, so let's go ahead, we'll solve this one. We're going to cross multiply. You can choose whichever method of solution you want, but I think this is the easiest and fastest. 4 times 100, 400, 7 times P is 7P, divide by 7, they cancel. P then, and we are allowed to use calculators in this lesson, is equal to 57.14. So our answer is 57.14, and because P represents a percent. Now if you put that in your calculator also, you'll see that the decimal is actually ongoing, it never ends. We're going to round 2 decimal places and stop there. So there is a 2 right after it. That would keep the 4 where it is. Let's try the next one. What percent of 72 is 54? So what percent? We don't know the percentage, so that's going to go over 100. Then we find the word of. After of is 72. So 72 is in the denominator, 54 is in the numerator. We're ready to solve. I'm going to cross multiply. My results will be 5400 equals 72P. Divide by 72, divide by 72, they cancel. P comes down, and my answer is 75. Again, we're finding percentages, so my answer is 75%. Be sure to label, just like a word problem. Third one, what percent again? So P over 100, 1/2 of the proportion. We find the word of. Whatever comes immediately after of is in the denominator. 25 is in the numerator. We're ready to solve. Cross multiplying is 60p equals 2500. Divide by 60, divide by 60. Those cancel, p comes down, and we do a little division on the side to find that p is actually equal to 41.6 repeating percent. Or we could write that as 41 2/3, because we know that 6 repeating is actually the fraction 2/3. Either one is perfect. All right, let's continue. Now we're going to try a few different style setups. Example 2 says, what number is 24% of 200? So, looking for our two main things, first we find the percentage. Put that over 100. So 24 over 100, we're good to go. Now we find the word of, and directly after that is 200. So 200 is going to go in the denominator. The only thing left is what number. We don't know what number, so that's what goes in the numerator, and we have our proportion. Let's do our cross multiplying. I get 100x is equal to 4800. I do my dividing, cancel out. I find that x equals 48. We are not finding a percent here. Here we're finding a number, so we just leave it like that. Now with all things you do in math, it's always a great idea to see if it makes sense. If I were to cross this out and say 48, because that's what we said our answer is, 48 is 24% of 200. Does that make sense? Well, 24% is almost 25%, which is a quarter. 1/4 of 200 would be 50. So yeah, 48 sounds very reasonable to be 24%. It makes sense. Let's try the next one. What number is 45%? So 45 over 100. After the of is 400, so that goes in the denominator. Here comes x. And then this one, as I could have in the one above, I can see I could cross multiply, but don't forget, if you can think through it, I can do some mental math here and say 100 times 4 is 400. 45 times 4 is going to give me that x equals 180. I don't even have to do any calculator work. And there we go. Next one, what number is 33% of 250? 33 over 100. And then of, whatever comes after of, is in the denominator, 250, and x. Do a little cross multiplying. 33 times 250 is 8,250 equal to 100x. Oops, there we go. Divide both sides by 100 so that they cancel out. X is now by itself, and I find my answer is 82.5. And that's how you solve those ones. Again, substitute everything back in, see if it makes sense. If it does, then you're ready to go. We have one more example. It says here, in a heptathlon, an athlete earns points in 7 track and field events. HEP is the abbreviation for 7. 7 track and field events. Suppose an athlete earns 836 points in the 100-meter hurdles. This score makes up 16% of the total score. What is the total score? Okay, so first of all, we can automatically put 16 over 100. That's our percentage. Now we want to read through the problem again, and we notice that here's this person. They're in 7 events. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In one of those events, they scored 836 points, and that was the 100-meter hurdle. So this 100 is not really an important number. It just describes the event. We want to know what the total score is. So if you remember, the denominator is going to be our total. It's going to be our base. Or we could even say what comes after the of. It goes in the denominator, total score. We don't know the total score, so that's x. That means the 836, it's a part of our total. We are ready to solve. 16x equals 83600 divided by 16. On both sides, my 16s cancel. X comes over. And 83,600 divided by 16 tells me that the total point score for this competitor is 5,225 points. You did a great job. So again, does that make sense for the total score considering 836 was one event? Yes, that makes perfect sense.